Fighting bigotry! Hurtful words can suck our turds, cause it's PC for me! And you! Woo woo! Yeah! Yeah, bro! Yeah, PC, bro!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and normally on Mondays I do essentially worst of the week with their curmudgeon of critical himself, but there are so many. There are three absolute train wrecks of comic books that I didn't have enough time to fit it into one segment, so I decided I was going to bring one of the nicest men in the comic fandom onto the channel because he has said that Batgirl number 50 could quite possibly be the worst comic of all times, that being Eric Breen. Eric, you're not normally you're kind of a glass is half full kind of guy here. I was surprised to hear you say this. Is it that bad?
Yes. Short answer.
I agree. So I went in and read this, and I was like, it can't be as bad as everyone's saying. I heard what Perch talking about it as far as the amount of character, the amount of harm done to the character in this issue. And I came away shocked. I was amazed what Cecil Castellucci was able to do with Batgirl in the final issue. A plus size, number 50. This is the finale of the series that was launched during Rebirth. And I don't know. I can't imagine anyone doing any more harm to the character, but we'll get into the details in a second. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this video. Give us a thumbs down if you don't. Also, if you don't like salty language, I guarantee you there's going to be some of that. If you don't like sarcasm, people taking the piss out of maybe a comic book that you enjoy, this probably isn't the video for you, because I do think Mr. Breen and myself have some harsh words for this comic book because it is awful.
There may be a few. Excuse me, Wes, I got a call.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That was Lois Lane issue 1 calling. It said Batgirl 50 sucked.
Whoa. That's the one where Lois Lane is using her computer to fight evil. Is it like was it an anti-fascism machine or something?
This computer kills fascists.
Yeah.
But it couldn't kill Batgirl 50.
I really like Barbara Gordon. I think Batgirl's a great character. This hasn't been the greatest run ever, but it hasn't been that bad. I think Cecil Castellucci has taken it to new lows, and I can't imagine anyone making this character. Like, I don't like this character anymore after reading the comic book. And it has everything to do with the way that she's interacting with people. This isn't, a lot of times I'll talk about things being fanfic. This is fan fantasy. This is Cecil Castellucci, the writer, basically inserting herself in here as Barbara Gordon herself. Like, she doesn't act like herself. The way she communicates with people, the important people in her lives, she's a complete and utter bitch. I don't know, just the way she talks to her father. Just think about what Jim Gordon's been through. He was infected. He was finally brought back. His son was just recently, he thinks, was murdered by Batgirl. We know that he actually took his own life. He saw a city basically be taken down in Joker War. This is the Joker War like aftermath, and she just, I can't imagine anyone talking to her father like this after what happened to him.
No, I agree. Let me preface this by saying I read the 3 issues of Batgirl leading up to this, and I actually thought they were anywhere from pretty decent to actually good. Now I'm thinking it was because it was put into the Joker War storyline, and she had to write within some kinds of confines to not do too much damage to the story. Then issue 50 comes along, and this is a love letter from Cecil Castellucci to Cecil Castellucci.
Absolutely.
She has turned Barbara Gordon into a vessel for her virtue signaling, and she sees Barbara Gordon is the world through Cecil Castellucci's eyes. In her world, she is the good guy, when in reality she's she's having a meal with her father after her brother and his son's funeral. And first I'd say how ridiculous it is that Jim Gordon doesn't know Barbara is Batgirl. I mean, he's the police commissioner, for Christ's sake. If he hasn't figured it out by now, it's probably a good thing Bullock is the commissioner now. But he's being perfectly reasonable. The city's just been under siege, so his solution is more protection. Of course, that's not the right way to do it, and Barbara calls it scorched earth. And maybe the people that are protesting in the streets and pulling down statues, maybe they do have the right idea, according to Barbara. And the way she talks to her dad during the whole thing, it takes her 2 sentences to get completely indignant and angry with him, and a third one before she finally tells him to shut up and lectures him, saying, you have no idea how much I've done for you. And when he goes, what, pushing papers for a congresswoman? And she lectures him a little more and stomps out to go off and be self-impressed somewhere else.
Yeah, it's weird. Jim Gordon is absolutely one of the villains, along with Batman, in this comic book. And then the most reprehensible characters in this comic book are essentially portrayed as the good guys, and we'll get to that. Like, there's one point where he's going to give a speech, at a pro-police dinner or something, and how could he do that? It's like, well, he was the police commissioner. It kind of feels like that's in character, but just the way that she interacts with her father here after everything he's been through and she's been through, it was just so weird, so out of character. And you're right, this is Cecil Castellucci talking to her father, likely, because this isn't Barbara Gordon and Jim Gordon talking at all.
No, they've never
and it gets
had
even
a relationship.
When she's talking to Batman or the Bat family, and the Bat family are basically portrayed as assholes, and she finds out that Red Robin and Nightwing, they have allowances from Bruce, because they're not fully functioning adults. He's Nightwing calls it a stipend. Well, it's a stipend. So what? These losers can't even take care of themselves. And Bruce is no longer a billionaire. He's only a millionaire. It's weird. And he says, the Joker eviscerated my accounts. Well, we know that Catwoman stole the money back. It's technically Lucius Fox that eviscerated his accounts. It isn't giving him his money back. But, he's only a millionaire now. She's like, so you're a millionaire instead of a billionaire. And then what have you done with your money? What has Barbara Gordon done with her money? Well, that's another question. But she's, completely indignant towards Batman and just telling him, well, he's like, well, I've donated money to the Gotham Academy, Gotham Museums, Gotham Hospitals. Certainly something within the public interest, GCPD. Obvious choices from the top down from the person that isn't donating any money that we know of. If you paid attention to the little needs, something new could grow. Why not put your money where your mouth is, Batman? Donate $20,000 to the other Gotham Homeless Fund so we can keep a place that actually services the community. And then he goes in, and then your rich friends who are buying up all the mom and pop stores that were destroyed by Joker's goons, causing them people to be living on the streets. This whole joke war began because of us and the people of the city. And of course, because Batman is a giant loser and would never stick up for himself. Just said it right now, Barbara. You're completely right.
Yeah, that whole scene, it was as if the Bat family were fools that Barbara Gordon could suffer no longer. So as she's spinning out, doing her donuts in front of Dick, who's saying, hey, I was, brainwashed. I wasn't me. So,
yeah, this is the worst part.
But he still has to earn, she says, you earn my trust back, blah, blah, blah. Now, I will say, the only line in this book that was even, that you could even Kevin Bacon to decent writing was when she said, I don't think B would appreciate you talking to me like this now. That was actual human emotion, and as close as Cecil gets to it anywhere in this book.
But I will say this, Eric. What words does he say to her? He says, Babs, wait up, can we talk? We don't know what he wants to talk about. She says, there's nothing to talk about. Then he says, well, I lost my memories. I think I should get a pass, because she's just basically undressed the entire Bat family for fighting me in a cage, for blaming me about the hospital, for forgetting me. It's like, I don't remember anything. I was brainwashed. What the hell are you talking about? He never makes a pass at her. He never even says, I want to talk about our feelings. He just says, can we talk? And then she just assumes, because she's so hot, that he must have been wanting to get romantic with her. It's like, be with you speaking me about business right now. Like,
no, but they do have a past. So again, like I said, she was wrong.
Yes,
Everything she said up to that point, but throwing that line in is something that would happen during the course of an argument. So that's, like I said, that's as close as she gets. But that's, I said that's one line in 50 something pages of just awful.
Like, why did she even try to go and save him if he was such an enormous piece of shit?
It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? It's almost as if she had no control over the way she wrote the 3 issues leading up to what she really wanted to get to, which was this.
Yeah, it's like holding the fact that Joker, turned him into he didn't turn him into the Rick Grace, and that was KG Beast, but turned him into Dick Boy or whatever his stupid nickname was, where he thought he was raised by Joker and he was a bad guy. And I don't know, I hate. It's so weird. All the good people in her life, obviously, she does have a complicated relationship with her father. He's a lifelong cop. He was married to the beat. Probably could have been there a little bit more, but for the most part, when you've seen her portrayed in comics, she loves her father, and her father loves him. Do they have the healthiest relationship? Not always, but it's never like it's portrayed here. She has absolutely no respect for Batman, Bruce Wayne, or any of the other members of the Bat family. She thinks they're all enormous pieces of shit that don't give a shit about anything. That she's so far and above everyone. This is saying that she's a Karen here in this situation is underselling what an enormous piece of character assassination is being done to the character, and then the way that she interacts with Dick Grayson here, Nightwing, it was just so out of line and weird. He just came back. He lost his memory for like a year and a half or something, maybe 2 years, something insane like that. She's been trying to save him the entire time. He finally comes back. She's like, "Get the hell out of here! You're a piece of shit." And then this the weird stuff in this whole comic book where, like I said, this is fantasy. This is what Cecil Castellucci, if she could be a superhero, this is what she thinks she would do. She's out there marching and saying the statues being taken down, even though Gotham just has come under fire, was taken over by Bane and City of Bane, essentially taken over by hostile forces, taken over by Joker in Joker War. The people are out here protesting, and she's finally deserves it, or figures out that she needs to help out the little guy, so she's stopping clown guys. This is weird. This is really weird here. This panel right here. Joker's toxin was intoxicating, and with the mask, my inhibitions were gone. I'm so ashamed. Like, this is so weird. Like, apparently it makes you promiscuous, and then she's beating up some guy that's not being nice to his girlfriend, and she's teaching self-help to the ladies down at the Y. This is my favorite Karen moment. She's fixing this lady's computer so she won't get viruses, and then she lets her know at the end, make sure you get your flu shot while you're at it.
Oh, I know. There was the be sure to vote, get your flu shot. It's just, this is the total government control that some people want for us, and it's all being channeled through Barbara Gordon, the one perfect person, just surrounded by people that just so desperately need her.
And it's in the weirdest thing is she's coming to all these epiphanies that she needs to help out the little guy in Gotham, and she can do so much more. This is Barbara Gordon. She's already been doing this for like decades.
Yeah,
this isn't new for the character.
No, there's the scene with Ryan Wilder on the street where they have to self what's the word self-validate each other and how great they both are, but their pride won't let them work together. When the one character says, if she wasn't so busy worrying about her dog park to take care of homes for the housing for the homeless, if I had a permanent address, I'd vote her out. But that's how we change things. But you're still great.
Yeah,
so are you.
Like weird. There's a couple references to coding. Barbara's teaching the homeless how to code. Yeah. She's Saint Barbara now, apparently. And I love my favorite part here is when she's talking to the congressman that she works for. And she's like, you need to go out there and address the people. You don't need to go to that big fancy dinner for the like fundraiser thing. And she's like, you know what? We need a woman like you in Washington. You're doing a better job than I am. It felt like when Ray was on the Millennium Falcon and Han Solo's like, we need you on the crew. God.
Well, now that may have been a reference to the Bronze Age when Barbara was a congresswoman for a while.
I don't think Cecil Castellucci knows about that. She doesn't know anything more than probably the 2 or 3 issues prior to when she started writing Batgirl. It's quite apparent she knows nothing about the character. We're going to get into some of that here in a bit. Obviously, I think we've covered it enough with as far as Jim Gordon and the Bat family go.
So where to next?
Well, let's talk about the really weird thing in here. Is his name's Jason Bard, right?
Yeah, and little context. Jason Bard and Barbara Gordon's relationship actually goes back 50 years. He was another character. He was a semi-regular in Barbara's backup series in Detective Comics, starting in as far back as the late 60s. So they've been on again, off again, for decades.
Well, he's also got a history. He, didn't he blow up Gotham City?
He did that while I wasn't reading. I understand that's in one of the previous runs. So I'm not sure where their relationship stands now, but from what I gathered from this book, he tried to frame her dad for something.
Yes.
I don't know if he was under somebody's
tried to frame her dad.
Or...
She also threw him off of a building. Talk about an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, but there he is.
Somehow, this is the love of her life, and this is the only character besides Jim Gordon Jr., the serial killer, that's portrayed in a positive light. That you're supposed to feel sympathetic for him, even though he blew up Gotham and he infiltrated the PD and he framed her father and she threw him off of the building. He's a good guy.
Now, was he at least under the influence of something or someone when he did that?
Maybe.
And if so, how come he gets a pass but Dick didn't, 5 pages earlier?
Exactly. I don't understand why. This is one of the worst people in the comic book, just as far as his history. But he's the good guy. And Batman, who's been protecting Gotham, protecting her identity, raising the Bat family, keeping everyone safe, just saved Gotham from the Joker, just saved Gotham from Bane and Flashpoint Batman, brought it back from the brink multiple times. He's the asshole, but this guy is he's the best, even though they're in a completely dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship where she essentially murdered the guy.
And can I say, if Jason Bard hasn't figured out that Barbara Gordon is Batgirl yet, he's supposed to be a private detective. I wouldn't hire him to find an elephant in a phone booth.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And then, like I said, in the previous issues, the weird characterization of Jim Gordon Jr., who we know is, murdered a lot of people, tried to murder her himself. And it was just I'm on my meds now. I'm good. Well, he's a good guy then.
Yeah, but she still wouldn't treat him, as such while he was alive. But now that he's gone, all of a sudden he's this patron saint of virtue.
Yeah. So much weird characterizations. Like I said, the bad guys in this comic book are Jim Gordon and the Bat family.
Well, that happens a lot when certain writers turn their characters into self-inserts. Like Nick Spencer's Captain America would have the Red Skull give these speeches that would sound pretty reasonable to a lot of people, but he was supposed to be the bad guy, and the person just being completely contemptuous of everything. They're the ones you're supposed to root for because in their eyes, they're the good guys because they see things in it from a completely different perspective. And that's what Cecil Castellucci's done with Barbara Gordon throughout this entire issue. As unlikable as she is, and to me, I can't imagine anybody liking someone like her the way she's portrayed in this book. In the writer's eye, she is, the perfect character and the way people should ascribe to be.
Yes. Just someone who looks down on everybody. I'm so far above you, I get to judge everybody. It doesn't matter that you're giving money to all these institutions in the city. I don't think you're giving your money to the institutions that I think you should. It doesn't matter that you lost your or you lost your memory, you were mind wiped, and I was trying to save you the whole time. Now that you're back, you're just the piece of shit that I always knew that you were. It doesn't matter that you just lost your son. It doesn't matter that you were infected by the Batman who laughs and being forced to do things against your will, and you lost your job as a commissioner, and you got to see Gotham be taken over by Bane, Gotham be taken over by Joker, basically helpless, and you can't help anyone. You're still the biggest piece of shit I've ever met, Dad.
Because you won't do exactly what I want when I want you to.
You support the police, and I don't like the police. You shouldn't be supporting the police. Why would you speak at their fundraiser? You're not spending your time the way that I want you to.
Kind of, I would love to see this version of Barbara Gordon's Twitter profile. Yeah, I get to see it now. A cab, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I imagine if you go to Cecil Castellucci's Twitter, if she has one, I don't know, I've never followed it, you'll probably meet this version of Barbara Gordon every single day.
Oh, I've no doubt.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. Is this the worst comic book of all times? I'm going to hedge my bet on that one. I would have to process it a little bit more. It's still pretty fresh. But this is an absolute train wreck of a comic book. This does real damage to a character that Cecil Castellucci got her hands on, for like 10 issues, maybe?
Yeah.
No history with the character, has nothing to do with any of the wonderful things that Barbara Gordon Batgirl has done in her career as a superhero. Just flushes it all down the tube so she could virtue signal and basically speak through her mouth, even though it's not her creation.
Okay, yeah.
I fucking hate it.
And a couple of other things. In the second and third story. The second story, when she's
I didn't read them. I was so mad at the comic by that I couldn't do it.
Okay, she takes on this person named V. Ross who wants to unleash a virus, tracks her to her lab, but the whole time leading up to it, she's complaining because A, she doesn't have her own rogues gallery, and B, everybody keeps calling her every time they have a problem, and she's got her own life and she wants her own villain, so she can't be bothered. And while they're fighting, she walks by a set of shelving with different pathogens and things on the shelves. One of them being Ebola, and the last panel has her in a boxer stance saying, "I've got my own villains now." So she's going to fight somebody within like 2 feet of proximity to vials of Ebola.
It's a good thing it's not contagious.
Yeah, and then the third story, it's girls' night out. And it's Huntress, spoiler, Cassandra Cain, Black Canary, and her. And they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they're all in character. And they get a call about a child trafficking ring. So she sends the gals out to stop it, but she tells them to stay in their D&D characters because it'll be good training. So there's, Stephanie Brown is singing in her character, and they're just la la la. They break it up, and they go back to resume the game. And there's no mention of, wow, what could have happened to those poor girls if we hadn't stopped? And it was all about. It was just
aren't we the best?
Yeah, it was just all, look how wonderful we are, and it's just it's just a serious subject matter, and it's just glossed over so they can be gal pals. And I know, I said, if you're on the other side of the spectrum, you're gonna, hate what I just said, but that's the kind of thing. It's they take the little things so seriously, and things that are serious so cavalierly. And I said, and I'm like you, I said, I didn't know about this until I watched Zach's video, because by this time I was already I'd mentally checked out, and I was just kind of glossing over it. And so I went back and read it, word for word, and it's like, holy crap. It just kept getting worse.
I didn't read the 2 backup stories. They were so terrible that I couldn't make it through it. I didn't see the video from back, but I'm sure that what he said was about correct, because this is a terrible comic book. This is what's wrong with the comic book industry. Creators like Cecil Castellucci, if you want to write a character like that, just create your own character. Don't write Batgirl.
Yeah, a week ago you asked me why I don't read Marvel anymore, and it's a lot of examples just like this. And when I read this, I was thinking, when James Tynion writes Batgirl, she is as smart, if not smarter than everybody else, but she's earned that position through.
Go read Three Jokers and see what Batgirl's really supposed to be.
Or read his run on Detective before he took over Batman. And that character is so well done in the hands of better writers and just all flushed down the toilet by Cecil Castellucci. And that's the problem. They keep letting people like this turn their characters into self-inserts. And eventually there's nothing left to want to read if you're not a self-absorbed, self-impressed narcissist yourself. And this is almost like strike one. So I don't know. I know this book is over, and I'm sure whoever writes her next, hopefully it'll be either Tynan or Tomasi, and she'll go back to being the comp, because just 1 month ago she resumes her position as Oracle, but in this book it's like, I can be Oracle anytime I want, because everybody owes me favors and la la la. Hopefully we'll get the version of her from the Three Jokers storyline and not this, because this character has taken such a beating in the last 10 years that somebody needs to put her right.
Yeah, Marguerite Scott had a Batgirl run within this that was actually pretty good. If you want to see the character, that's a pretty decent version of the character. This is the worst version of the character. It's not Barbara Gordon. It's not Batgirl. It's Cecil Castellucci and what she would do if she was a superhero, and she would be absolutely insufferable, just like Barbara Gordon is in this comic. Breen, thank you so much for visiting me today and talking about this. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I thought we stayed pretty composed.